It's authentic, it's reliable, it's evidence-based. We bring to you the facts from the hub of research in Oxford, England. Good afternoon, my fellow citizens of the world. It's me, Dr. Piyush Goyal from Oxford, a chartered scientist, a maxillofacial surgeon, and a researcher. I have certain observations to share regarding pandemic, which we are going through since last 1.5 years, with lots of questions. We do not know where it started, how did it all start. There is a complete state of dilemma. So today, I will be demystifying pandemic, looking at what exactly has been happening since last hundreds of years together. Is it something which has happened just for the first time? No, not really. Because my research does support that such pandemics and epidemics have been happening historically ever since. So I'm not going to go too much in detail about it, but then just give you a broader picture about starting from early 1300s, talking about what has been happening, what has been faced by our ancestors who have faced and lived with such epidemics and pandemics. So it is going to be very promising, though challenges which we see, the crisis which we see are immense, but we will live with it, and we'll live it as our ancestors have. So I'm going to take you further in this episode about demystifying pandemics. So let me take you back into the time when it all started. Something which our ancestors have already lived with in the past. These are pandemics. There have been lots of them in the past as well. If I may say so, 60 generations beyond me, when we talk about the Black Ages, and I'm talking about mid-1300s, there was an outbreak of plague, killing hundreds of millions of people. The disease which led to swollen and infected lymph nodes was brought into control by quarantining and improving the sanitation. It killed millions of people. Literally 300 million people died. Furthermore, if I look at 20 generations beyond, hundreds of people later in 1520 died because of smallpox, which was caused by the virus which we know as variola minor, the deadliest known to human being. Fluid-filled pustules on the skin all over the body and spreading droplets through infected people, through nasal and mouth vapors and bits falling out of the sores, killed literally 1/3 of the population. Do you know how many people died? 350 million people died because of smallpox. That was another pandemic. So, thanks to the vaccination brought by one of the British scientists, Edward Jenner, in 1796, which brought an end to the smallpox, which has been literally eradicated. However, sometimes we still see evidences in low-income countries. Let's move further and talk about early 18th century. 1870, the world was hit by cholera, a deadly disease caused by contaminated food and drinks. Water killed millions of people again. There were 7 pandemics, one after the other, across the whole world. And according to WHO, while improved hygiene and sanitation has removed the major threat of this deadly disease, it still remains endemic in lots of low-income countries and still kills around 100,000 to 140,000 people each year. That's what WHO report. 100 years ago, we discovered penicillin, 1900s something, 1907 probably, we discovered penicillin. And after the First World War, we had another major pandemic. It was in 1918 when we were hit by influenza, also known as the Spanish flu. 50 to 100 million people worldwide died, and we know the strain, it was H1N1. And after two waves in 1918 and later on, the strain slowly, gradually faded and became quite benign. Though it keeps on circulating each year, and we all know the common flu, which we call it influenza, is still, we get infected each year, even after 100 years. Likewise, in 1968, Hong Kong flu killed more than 1 million people. So these things have been happening ever since. We also need to be looking at 1981, when AIDS killed millions of people again. Moving forward, after the millennium, we were hit by SARS, also known as the acute respiratory syndrome, which killed around 800 people. This was another coronavirus, another strand of coronavirus. This deadly epidemic killed around 800 people worldwide. After the SARS in 2003, we had MERS, which was known as the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. Also another coronavirus, had a global outbreak killing almost 1,000 people, and normally known to be spreading out of camels. COVID-19. Another name, another version of SARS, which was also a coronavirus. MERS, also a coronavirus. Another strain of coronavirus hits us now, also known as COVID-19. Or shall we say SARS-CoV-2, related to SARS from 2002. So more than 1 million people have already died. We are still waiting what we can achieve. We are pinned by the hope of vaccines, which might bring respite to the population. We might be able to save ourselves. But do we really have the right answer? Probably not. So what next? The end game of corona pandemic is also likely to come from a combination of measures. For example, the wearing masks, improving our hygiene, whatever ways you want to think about, social distancing, a new norm of life, going back to basics. Now, highly effective vaccines are definitely going to help, but do you think is it going to go away? No, never. The bacteria, the virus will live with us, and there will be infections and diseases coming in time. What we have to do is we have to fight against these diseases, improving our immunity, living with nature, living with best practices. So I'm going to bring up more into my next episode of pandemics. What are the best practices you should be looking at, which have been announced by our British government and also WHO. We need to follow the guidelines, and hopefully it won't be long when we'll be at least be out of the present crisis. Thank you.